Hello and welcome to the GCN Racing News Show. This week we look at the winners and losers of the 2021 season after the UCI published its yearly rankings. Find out that pro cyclists can actually run, take a closer look at the newly released 2022 Giro d'Italia route, and we ask the question, has the race season got its dates all mixed up? Oh, and we also find out how quickly the French police can find a stolen Tour de France winner's bike. Starting off then with those newly published 2021 world rankings. It was of course Tadej Pogačar who topped the men's table after a dominating year, which saw him bag 2 monuments and his second Tour de France, leading with 5,363 points, nearly 1,000 ahead of second place Wout van Aert, with Primož Roglič rounding off the podium some 1,400 points behind the top spot. Pogačar also took the stage race ranking ahead of Roglič and Bernal, with Wout van Aert finishing up at the top of the one-day race ranking. Alaphilippe ended up second on that one, with Pogačar again being on the podium with a third place thanks to those wins at Lombardia and Liège. Notable additions to the upper echelons of the ranking tables include Wout Almeida and Jonas Vingegaard in 4th and 5th respectively on the stage race ranking. Also, Sonny Colbrelli nailing a 5th place position on the one-day rankings, just behind Mathieu van der Poel. All that work from Pogačar though didn't actually earn Slovenia the top spot on the nations table. They had to settle for second behind Belgium. Mighty impressive nonetheless, France falling from 1st to 3rd on the list, struggling perhaps to keep up with Van Aert's impressive point haul for Belgium. Roglič also could be said to be the main faller on the individual table. He topped it last year, but indeed had to fall in line behind Pogačar this year and Van Aert. A continuing trend? Let us know in the comments. In the only rankings table for the women, it was Annemiek van Vleuten who dominated with 5,053 points, taking the top spot by an incredible 1,500 points, ahead of Elisa Longo Borghini. Marianne Vos rounded out the podium with Demi Vollering in 4th. Anna van der Breggen slipped down the table after topping the ranking in 2020. She settled for 5th this season. Although of course the Dutch remained as strong as ever and absolutely dominated the rankings, with 4 women in the top 5. It was therefore the Netherlands who topped that nation's ranking with nearly double the points of closest rival Italy. Quite the margin that. Moving on from points to a slight storm in a teacup during the week, with EF Education Nippo serving 2 of its departing riders early termination notices after they appeared on social media riding the wrong bike, the one they'll be riding on their respective teams for 2022. The riders were Sergio Higuita and Lawson Craddock, who subsequently apologised to their team afterwards, causing them to backtrack and renege on that termination notice. Higuita had been spotted on a Specialized, absolutely storming up a climb with Dani Martinez at the Giro de Rigo event in Colombia. Likewise, Craddock was seen on a Giant at the Mellow Johnny's event in Texas. Neither rider, of course, on their team issue Cannondale, which they are contracted to ride until the 1st of January 2022, when they'll ride the bike of their new team. I'm glad all was resolved amicably in the end. 2 months docked pay is a steep price, and no one wants to see riders exit any team on bad terms. Equally though, pro cycling is built on sponsorship, and when you ride the bike you're not contracted to ride in public, damage can be done. Begs the question, should the race season get its dates right? Currently, a rider would technically start riding for their squad on the first day of the calendar year, 1st of January, and be contracted with that team until the end of that year. This means they are contracted to represent any sponsors connected to the team and be part of the organisation all the way through. However, the race season finished back in mid-October. Team camps are nearly underway for 2022, and most riders will be communicating with their team for the upcoming season. Getting used to the equipment is part of that process, as is connecting with coaching staff and team management. No rider just magically appears on their new 2022 bike on the 1st of January. They'll have been riding it secretly to get used to the setup, and not only do riders have to be careful not to be seen on new equipment, they will also not be seen on the bikes they actually should be riding on because, well, they aren't riding them. For 2 months at least, certain team sponsors may not get the exposure it would have liked, and riders will sneak around on bikes they shouldn't be on. There is a good argument for contracts starting in November to avoid all this, but with races still taking place throughout autumn and winter months, a blanket start could make things tricky for lower division teams logistically. Hence, we will most probably see, 1st of January new team mugshots, riders hastily deleting social media posts before that, and the odd disagreement to see us through to the new year. Either way, at least Craddock and Higuita were actually on a bike, unlike Geraint Thomas, who took to social media in the middle of his training ride from a taxi. Unfortunately, the 2018 Tour de France winner had his bike stolen while stopping for a coffee in Menton during the week. That's just to the east of Nice and Monaco on the French-Italian border. There was nothing else for it but to call a taxi home. His Dogma F, which was apparently stickered up as an F12, in the hands of a thief. Remarkably though, the story had a happy ending, as the local police managed to round up the thief and the bike in the space of a day. It was even returned with his Garmin still attached. Rumour has it that this was all one elaborate plan by the Menton police force to obtain a selfie. That, or the thief found out the bike had rim brakes and swiftly returned it. If you are going to get your bike nicked on a spin though, you're going to want a solid runner amongst your group. Someone who can sprint off after the criminal before they've managed to figure out how to change into the 5311 on Di2. Someone like Adam Yates, it turns out, who earlier last week took a break from his holidays during the off-season to crack out a sub-3 hour time at the Barcelona Marathon, clocking 2 hours, 58 minutes and 43 seconds, and average splits of 4:11 a kilometre. In a post on social media, Yates casually remarks that his preparation of a beach holiday wasn't the most ideal prep, but he was happy with his time. Freddie Avett of Legion of LA actually ran the LA Marathon on the same day as Yates too, running around 10 minutes faster and finishing in 44th. They of course aren't the only pros to run. Van Aert has been known to lace up the trainers and recently ran the Antwerp 10-mile race, clocking 1 hour, 11 minutes and 11 seconds at a pace of 4 minutes, 25 seconds a kilometre. Tom Pidcock also claimed to have completed 5 kilometres in 30 minutes, 25 seconds previously, although due to questionable GPS tracking, this was never verified. None other than ex-runner and Canadian pro Michael Woods pointing out that potential error. Either way, I think the score needs to be settled once and for all. Off-season race, what do you reckon, anyone? Get in touch, we'll see what we can do. Moving on to the Giro d'Italia now, and a route you definitely want a bike for. You don't want your trainers for this one. You want a bike with a very easy gear too. The Italian Grand Tour has announced its full route for 2022, and it includes a whole heap of climbing. Next year's route will contain just 26.3 kilometres of time trials, the lowest amount since 1962. That includes a 17.1 kilometre TT to conclude the race in Verona and a 9.2 kilometre TT on stage 2 in Budapest, the race's starting point. The first 3 stages are all in Hungary for the race's Gran Partenza. From there, the peloton will head to Sicily after the first rest day for a summit finish on stage 4 up Mount Etna. A nice gentle start for the riders as they get on Italian roads then. The race then heads gradually north to the Alps and packs in a huge amount of climbing over the 3 weeks, with a total of 51,000 metres of elevation gain. Key climbs include the Mortirolo, Passo Podoi, the race's Kima Coppi, also Passo Fadai and San Pellegrino top the bill. Aside from the big mountains, there will be 6 hillier days taken in Naples, Genoa, Friuli and Turin. There will also be 3 rest days to give the riders at least some time to recover, and race director Mario Venghi predicts stage 16 and 20 will be the key days to decide the race. The race director actually challenged Pogačar to take on the Giro Tour double in an interview with Gazzetta dello Sport, saying that I don't think winning the Tour de France 3 or 4 times makes much of a difference to a rider's career. When you win it once, you've proved you're a great rider and there's little else to prove after that. The last rider to win the double was Marco Pantani back in 1998, so I guess he does have a point. Win multiple tours or multiple Grand Tours in the same year. What do you think? Venghi insinuated in that same interview that there was more honour in the double. Remember, the gap between the Giro and the Tour is only a month long, so not much time to recover. All in all though, it looks like a fantastic route in my opinion, with key stages spread out a little more than usual, and I can't wait to see how the race unfolds on this Giro course. Team and transfer news now. Elena Amilsic has announced that she will ride for Canyon SRAM for a 7th season, marking her 10th as a pro. The Belarusian won at the Lotto Belgium Tour earlier in the year and said in an interview with Cycling News that victory there gave her the drive to continue in professional cycling after a period in which she considered retirement. One of Australia's most successful cyclists, Carla McCulloch, has announced her retirement from the sport after a 15-year career in track cycling. McCulloch's results included 4 world titles, an Olympic bronze medal, 3 gold medals at the Commonwealth Games, 21 Oceania titles and 15 national championship victories. Rally cycling will have a name change in 2022 and 23. The American Second Division squad will now be known as Human Powered Health. The squad is owned and managed by Minnesota Health, and Human Powered Health is a new wellness platform being launched by the company and will take the form of title sponsor of the team for the next 2 years. Bike Exchange have signed their 5th New Zealander in the form of Campbell Stewart, who penned a 2-year deal after taking a silver medal at Tokyo in the Omnium. Also joining the Australian squad is Alexandre Barma. If his name rings a bell, he's the rider who was pipped to the line in the very final metres of the Tour de Vendée last season. Leaving the team is André Zeitz, who will reunite with his home team Astana, Kazakhstan. Bike Exchange women have also looked to the track for their latest signings. They've brought in Georgia Baker and Alexandra Manley. The Koning Quickstep have snapped up 21-year-old Swiss talent Mauro Schmidt. If you remember, he took that emphatic win on the gravel stage of this year's Giro d'Italia. A savvy signing by the Belgium squad, getting the rider on board from Quebec and Nextash, which still is not in a position to run a team, unfortunately, with contracted riders free to look elsewhere. More transfer news, and Dario Cataldo has moved from Movistar to Trek Segafredo, and Irish rider Imogen Cotter has signed a 1-year contract with Planta Pura for 2022. Extremely sad news from Eritrea now, and emerging talent Desiat Kidani has tragically been killed in a road accident after reportedly being struck by a car while training in Asmara, Eritrea. Kidani showed huge promise as a junior, winning the African Continental Championships in the TT and road race. She also later placed 22nd and 28th at the World Championships in Austria and finished 11th at the Youth Olympic Games. She was also Eritrean national TT champion and finished 2nd in the road race after gaining valuable experience in her first year as a senior, riding for UCI's World Cycling Centre team. Dreadful news, and we here at GCN express our condolences to Desiat's family, friends and teammates. We're going to finish the show now with a roundup of the latest cyclocross results. It was Lars van der Haar of Balois-Trek Lions who took round 6 of the men's UCI World Cup in Tabor. The European champion taking his first World Cup win since 2017. He beat Eli Isabit of Powell's Susan Bingo, with Quinton Hermans from Tormann's Circus Cyclocross team settling for 3rd. Van der Haar rode clear on the last 2 laps of the Czech course to seal the victory. Isabit's 2nd place saw him increase his overall World Cup lead to 51 points, though with Van der Haar moving up to 2nd with 6 rounds of the 16-race series now completed. Lucinda Brandt of Balois-Trek Lions won the women's race, riding away from 7 riders on the final lap. The world champion proved too strong for the rest of the competition as she increased her pace, dropping her rivals in the final moments of the race. Teenager Puck Peters from Alpecin Phoenix had made the race with aggressive attacks and was rewarded with a 2nd place finish, sprinting home ahead of Anna-Marie Wurst of 777. Brandt extended her lead in the World Cup to 19 points after rival of the series, Bet Seema, placed 5th despite finishing only 9 seconds down on Brandt. And that is about all we have time for on the Racing News Show this week. Don't forget, there is a big doubleheader of cyclocross racing to look forward to on GCN Plus this weekend. We have the Super Prestige from Merckxplas on Saturday. That's available to watch worldwide, except those in Belgium. And we also have the World Cup from Coxsider on Sunday. That's for all of you in Europe, except Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Italy and Belgium. There is also the final round of the ZRL tonight, which you can find on GCN Racing's YouTube and Facebook channel. Thanks for watching all, enjoy the racing, and see you next week.